It is dawn. A man stares at his reflection in the mirror. The face looking back at him is not the same as yesterday. It's older, wearier, more fragile. The hands that once held so much strength now tremble slightly. And in that quiet, almost haunting moment, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Everything he thought was permanent is slowly slipping away. Life is short. Time never waits. The youth we cherish, the love we hold, the recognition we chase, even the body we call our own, each of them is fading, piece by piece, like sand falling through our fingers. But here is the paradox. Even though we all know this, we live as if we are immortal. We postpone joy, we delay gratitude, we ignore peace, always thinking tomorrow will give us another chance. Yet tomorrow is never promised. So the question stands, if everything we cling to is temporary, then what truly matters in this fragile life? This is not just philosophy. It's a question that every heart has felt, in moments of silence, in moments of loss, or in moments when the weight of time presses too heavily to ignore. The Buddha often reminded us that impermanence is not a curse, it's a teacher. It doesn't come to frighten us, but to wake us up, to help us see clearly what deserves our attention and what we must learn to let go. Think about it. Every flower blooms, only to wither. Every sunrise arrives, only to fade into night. And every life, no matter how powerful or ordinary, eventually reaches its final breath. Yet within this impermanence lies a hidden beauty. Because nothing lasts forever, every moment becomes infinitely precious. And maybe, just maybe, the secret to true happiness is not in holding tighter, but in learning how to let go. In today's reflection, we're going to uncover why this awareness of impermanence can change the way you see everything, your struggles, your relationships, even your own fears. More importantly, we'll explore how this realization can bring peace, freedom, and a deeper joy into your everyday life. But stay with me until the very end, because there is a powerful teaching waiting for you there, one that might completely shift the way you live from this moment forward. So, if these words touch your heart, if they stir something inside you, consider taking a small action now. Hit follow, leave a comment, or share this message with someone you care about. It's not just a gesture, it's a way of spreading light, a way of joining hands so that wisdom travels further, reaching those who might desperately need it. And for that, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, let us begin this journey together. 1. Impermanence, the undeniable truth. There was once a man named Daniel. On the surface, his life looked steady. A good job, a family he loved, and a home filled with small comforts. But inside, Daniel carried a secret fear he could never put into words. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about failure. It was about time. Every time he looked in the mirror, he noticed the lines deepening on his face. Every time he played with his daughter, he saw how quickly she was growing, how yesterday's baby was now a child with her own questions and dreams. And at night, when the house was silent, he would lie awake and feel the weight of impermanence pressing down on his chest. Daniel wanted things to last. He wanted to hold on to moments, to freeze them, to keep them safe. But the more he clung, the more he felt them slipping through his fingers. This is the struggle many of us share but rarely speak about. The quiet ache of watching life change faster than our hearts can accept. And this is where the wisdom of the Buddha becomes a lantern in the dark. The Buddha taught about anicca impermanence. He said, "Nothing in this world remains the same." From the tiniest grain of dust drifting through the sunlight to the stars that burn for millions of years in the sky, everything is in motion, everything is changing. From a fleeting thought that comes and goes in our mind, to a friendship that lasts decades still. Everything shifts, evolves, and eventually fades. The truth of impermanence is undeniable. But instead of running from it, the Buddha invited us to look directly at it. Because when we see impermanence clearly, we begin to understand the root of our suffering. Think of it this way. When we believe things will stay the same, we hold on too tightly. We fight reality. We demand that life bend to our desires, but life will not obey. And so, disappointment is born. Daniel began to realize this one evening as he sat in his daughter's room. She had just fallen asleep, her small hand curled gently around his finger. He wanted to freeze that moment forever, but then he remembered the Buddha's teaching. Impermanence does not mean loss. It means life is alive. The flower is precious because it will not bloom forever. The sunrise is sacred because it will fade into night. And this very moment with his daughter was shining so brightly because it would one day become a memory. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel the urge to cling. He simply sat there, breathing, letting the moment be exactly what it was, beautiful, fragile, temporary, and complete. When we stop resisting impermanence, we discover peace. We learn to hold life with open hands, not clenched fists. We begin to see that joy is not in holding on, but in showing up fully, with presence, for each passing moment. The Buddha often compared life to a river, always moving, always flowing. If you try to stop the river, you suffer. But if you learn to float with it, to trust its current, you find freedom. Daniel's fear of time didn't disappear overnight, but slowly he began to shift. Instead of seeing each day as something slipping away, he saw it as something being given. Instead of clinging to the past or worrying about the future, he began to taste the sweetness of now. This is the gift of understanding impermanence. It transforms fear into appreciation. It turns anxiety into awareness. And it reminds us that every breath, every smile, every touch of sunlight on our skin is a miracle happening just once in this form. So when life changes, and it always will, remember this: impermanence is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. It whispers, don't wait, don't hold back, love now, live now, be awake now. And in that awareness, suffering begins to dissolve. Because the truth of impermanence, once fully embraced, is the doorway to freedom. 2. The shadow we mistake for the self. There was a woman named Claire. To everyone around her, Claire was successful. She had built a career, earned respect, and carried herself with confidence. But inside, she was exhausted. Every day felt like a performance. She worried about what others thought of her. She carefully crafted her image, posting perfect pictures, speaking the right words, chasing validation. It was like wearing a mask that she could never take off. At night, when the applause faded and the screens went dark, Claire felt a strange emptiness. She asked herself, "Who am I when no one is watching?" And the silence that followed made her feel lost. This struggle is not only Claire's. It's the silent battle many of us face. We mistake ourself for something solid, something we must protect, polish, and prove. But in truth, what we call self is more like a shadow, constantly shifting, never truly permanent. The Buddha taught this with deep clarity. He explained that the self is not a single unchanging entity. It is a collection, a temporary gathering of body, feelings, perceptions, mental habits, and consciousness. Like the parts of a chariot, when taken apart, the chariot itself disappears. In the same way, when we look closely, the I we cling to cannot be found as one solid thing. Claire began to explore this teaching during a retreat. One morning, she sat in meditation and noticed the swirl of thoughts in her mind. A memory of an old argument, a surge of pride about her achievements, a wave of fear about the future. Each thought arose, lived for a moment, and then faded away. For the first time, she asked herself, if these thoughts are always changing, how can they be me? Later, she observed her feelings. Joy when the sun touched her face. Sadness when she remembered her mistakes. Relief when the silence grew deeper. Every feeling came and went, like clouds drifting through the sky. She realized, if feelings are temporary, how can they define who I am? Piece by piece, Claire began to see what the Buddha had revealed. The self she had spent her life protecting was not a fixed identity. It was a process. It was movement. It was ever-changing. And with that realization came a freedom she had never known. When we cling to the idea of a solid me, we live in constant fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of being judged. Fear of losing what we think defines us. But when we see that the self is not fixed, those fears begin to soften. Claire no longer felt the pressure to prove herself through titles, achievements, or the approval of others. She still worked hard. She still cared for her loved ones. But now, she acted from a place of openness, not from the need to defend her ego. The Buddha's teaching on non-self is not meant to take away your worth. It is meant to free you from the prison of constant comparison. Because when you see that the self is fluid, you also see that you are connected to everything around you. Like waves rising and falling in the same ocean, we are not separate. We are expressions of life itself. Imagine the relief of no longer needing to hold up a mask. Imagine the peace of simply being, without the burden of constant performance. This is the gift of realizing the shadow we mistake for the self. It does not erase you, it liberates you. It opens your heart to compassion, because when you are not obsessed with protecting me, you begin to truly see we. Claire's journey is our journey. Her struggle is our struggle. And her glimpse of freedom is a reminder that you too can step out of the shadow. The Buddha once said, "In the seen, there is only the seen. In the herd, only the herd. In the thought, only the thought." What does this mean? It means we don't need to add me or mine to every experience. We can let life be life, and in that letting go, a quiet joy arises. So the next time you feel trapped by the need to prove yourself, pause. Notice your breath. Notice your thoughts. Notice your feelings. And ask, who is the I that I'm trying so hard to defend? You may find that what you thought was solid was only a shadow. And in that discovery, you step closer to freedom. 3. Letting go. Not loss, but freedom. There was a man named Michael. For most of his life, he worked hard to build something he could call his own. A career, a home, a reputation. He held tightly to these things, guarding them as if they were treasures that defined who he was. But with every passing year, Michael's grip grew heavier. He feared losing his position at work. He feared his children drifting away as they grew older. He feared the day when his body would no longer keep up with his dreams. On the outside, people saw a man of success. But inside, he lived with constant tension. Like carrying a backpack filled with stones that grew heavier with each step. One day, after a long week, Michael sat alone in his office. The sun was setting, spilling golden light across his desk. But he didn't notice the beauty of the evening. He was too busy thinking about what he might lose. And that's when a thought struck him. What if, holding on so tightly, is exactly why I feel so heavy. This is the paradox of life that the Buddha spoke of so clearly. Suffering doesn't arise simply because we lack something. It arises because we cling to what we believe we must possess forever. We attach the words mine and myself to things that are always changing. And when those things shift, as they always do, our hearts break. The Buddha called this craving tanha. It's the thirst that never ends. The thirst that whispers, more, keep it, don't let go. But the more we drink, the thirstier we become. Michael began to see this truth during a quiet walk. He passed by a tree, its branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. A few leaves let go, drifting down slowly, gracefully. And for the first time, he didn't see loss. He saw freedom. The tree did not fight to keep the leaves. It did not mourn their falling. It simply let go, trusting that new life would come in its season. That image stayed with Michael. He realized that letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean neglecting life or rejecting love. It means loosening the grip of mine and must have. It means allowing things to come and go without chaining his peace to them. From that day, small changes began to unfold. When his children left for college, instead of clinging to sadness, he celebrated their growth. When challenges arose at work, he still gave his best, but he stopped tying his worth to titles or promotions. And when he looked in the mirror, he saw the lines on his face, not as signs of loss, but as stories written by time. Slowly, the backpack of stones grew lighter, not because life became easier, but because he no longer carried it the same way. This is the power of letting go. It's not about losing, it's about making space. When you unclench your fist, you don't walk away empty-handed. You open yourself to hold something new, and often that something is peace. The Buddha once said, "You can only lose what you cling to." These words are not meant to frighten us, but to free us. Because when we loosen our grip, we realize we were never truly in control to begin with. And in that realization, we find a deeper trust in life itself. Michael discovered that letting go is not the end of love, it is the beginning of real love. Because when you no longer say, "This person is mine," you finally see them as they are. And in that freedom, compassion blossoms. So, the next time you feel yourself clinging, whether to a possession, a person, or even an identity, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I holding this with fear, or can I hold it with openness? Letting go doesn't strip you of meaning. It reveals it. It uncovers the quiet joy of living without chains. Michael still has his work, his family, his life, but now he carries them lightly. And because of that, he feels lighter too. Letting go is not loss. It is freedom. And it is waiting for all of us, if only we dare to open our hands. 4. Live with the noble path, the clear way. There comes a moment in life when we realize that running after success, recognition, or temporary pleasures never truly fills the emptiness inside. We try so hard to chase after what the world tells us will make us happy: money, status, approval. And yet, even when we reach those milestones, the joy fades quickly. At that point, many of us feel lost, asking quietly, if not this, then what? What is the right way to live? This is where the teachings of the Buddha shine like a lantern in the dark. He didn't give us vague promises. He gave us a map, a clear, practical path to live by. It's called the Noble Eightfold Path. And unlike abstract ideas or blind faith, this path is about action. It's about the way we see, think, speak, work, and even the way we nourish our hearts day by day. Let me share it with you in a way that feels alive, not just like words on a page. Think of a person, let's call him David. David spent most of his life striving. He worked endless hours, chasing promotions, climbing ladders, competing with colleagues. On the outside, people respected him. But inside, He was restless. He found himself snapping at loved ones, losing sleep, and feeling like his life was slipping away in a blur of stress. One evening he stumbled across a passage about the Noble Eightfold Path. At first, he thought, 8 steps? Sounds complicated. But as he looked deeper, he realized it wasn't about memorizing rules. It was about relearning how to live. The first step is right view. Seeing life as it is, not as our ego wants it to be. For David, this meant recognizing that nothing he chased could last forever. Titles, wealth, even praise, all were temporary. That simple insight loosened the grip of his endless striving. The second is right intention, choosing kindness over selfish gain. Instead of seeing colleagues as rivals, David began to see them as fellow travelers, each carrying their own silent struggles. Then comes right speech. We've all said words we regret: sharp, careless, hurtful. David started practicing gentler speech, not to be fake, but to speak from a place of respect. It softened his relationships more than he ever expected. Right action followed naturally. It's about living in a way that doesn't harm others, whether through dishonesty, violence, or exploitation. David realized that his small daily choices, how he treated his team, how he showed up at home, mattered more than any award on his wall. Right livelihood asked a deeper question. Is the way I make a living supporting life or destroying it? For David, this was tough. He didn't need to quit his job, but he began steering projects toward things that created value instead of feeding greed. Right effort reminded him that growth isn't automatic. It takes daily intention to let go of unwholesome habits and water the seeds of patience, compassion, and mindfulness. Then came right mindfulness. This wasn't about sitting cross-legged for hours. It was about being present, really tasting his morning coffee, really listening when his daughter spoke, really noticing the way stress knotted his chest before a meeting. Finally, right concentration, training the mind to stay steady. Through simple meditation, David learned to return, again and again, to the breath. It didn't solve all his problems overnight, but it gave him an anchor in the storm. Now, here's the beauty of the Eightfold Path. It's not a rigid checklist. It's like weaving threads into a fabric. Each thread view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration strengthens the others. Together, they form a way of life that is clear, balanced, and deeply human. The Buddha once said, "Just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too my teaching has one taste, the taste of freedom." For David, freedom wasn't quitting everything and running away. It was discovering that true peace didn't come from chasing more, but from living wisely, with clarity and compassion. And the same is possible for you, right now, wherever you are. So, ask yourself, what would it feel like to live with this kind of clarity? What would it feel like to walk a path that doesn't drain you, but nourishes you? The Eightfold Path isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you truly are, beneath the noise. That, my friend, is the road to real freedom. 5. Wisdom and compassion as the two wings of true freedom. When we think about freedom, most of us imagine breaking free from responsibilities, from rules, from whatever feels like a cage. But the Buddha taught something deeper. True freedom doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from walking through life with two wings, wisdom and compassion. Without them, we remain stuck, circling in the same patterns of pain and desire. But when they move together, we rise. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Sarah. She was brilliant, sharp-minded, always seeking truth. She devoured books on philosophy, science, and spirituality. She could see through illusions quickly, and her friends admired her intellect. But here's the thing. Her wisdom, while powerful, sometimes made her cold. When others struggled, she judged them for not seeing what she saw. She thought, if I figured this out, why can't they? Her clarity became a wall that kept her apart. On the other hand, her friend Michael was the complete opposite. His heart overflowed with kindness. He never turned away from anyone in need. He gave, forgave, and embraced. But Michael's compassion often left him drained. He helped without boundaries, trusted blindly, and at times he was taken advantage of. Sarah had wisdom without compassion. Michael had compassion without wisdom. Both, in their own way, were still trapped. The Buddha compared wisdom and compassion to two wings of a bird. With only one, we cannot fly. Wisdom alone can become cold, detached, even arrogant. Compassion alone can become naive, blind, and exhausting. But together, they balance each other. Wisdom sees reality clearly, that life is impermanent, that clinging brings suffering, that nothing truly belongs to us. Compassion softens that truth with love, reminding us that every being struggles, every heart longs for peace, and we are all connected. Think about it in your own life. Maybe you've had moments where your intellect told you, don't get involved, protect yourself, and yet your heart whispered, but there's suffering, can't you reach out? Or perhaps you've given and given, pouring your energy into others, until you felt empty, even resentful. This is the imbalance the Buddha warned us about. Freedom is not found in extremes, but in balance. Sarah, after years of study, finally attended a meditation retreat. There, her teacher told her something that changed her perspective. He said, "Wisdom without compassion is like a lamp with no warmth. Compassion without wisdom is like fire with no light. But when they come together, they illuminate and they heal." For the first time, Sarah understood that her knowledge was not complete until it opened her heart. Meanwhile, Michael learned to pause. Before rushing to help, he asked, "Am I truly serving them, or am I feeding their dependence?" He discovered that sometimes the most compassionate act was not to give more, but to empower others to stand on their own. This is the balance the Buddha offered us. To see the world clearly, and yet love it deeply. To know that everything is impermanent, and yet still choose to care. To recognize suffering, not with despair, but with the courage to ease it where we can. This is why wisdom and compassion are called the two wings of liberation. They are not concepts to memorize. They are qualities to practice every single day. So how do we begin? Start small. When you notice someone struggling, don't just rush in blindly. First pause, breathe, ask yourself, what is the truly wise and loving thing to do here? When you're caught in judgment thinking someone should know better, ask, if I were in their shoes, with their struggles, how would I feel? This simple practice weaves wisdom with compassion, moment by moment. And slowly, you'll feel it, your heart softening, your mind sharpening, your spirit becoming lighter. The Buddha's path is not about choosing intellect over heart or heart over intellect. It's about letting them dance together. When wisdom and compassion walk hand in hand, life opens. Freedom is no longer a dream out there. It becomes the air beneath your wings, lifting you higher than you ever thought possible. So today, ask yourself, are you flying with one wing or with two? Because only with both can we truly be free. 6. The most important thing, freedom from suffering. When we think about what matters most in life, our minds usually go to the same places. Money, success, recognition. Or maybe, for some of us, it's family, relationships, and a sense of belonging. All of these things are meaningful. But if we look deeply, we'll see they are also fragile. Wealth can vanish. Fame fades. Even happiness, as we usually know it, comes and goes like clouds drifting across the sky. The Buddha taught that the deepest purpose of life is not to cling to these passing things, but to discover freedom, freedom from suffering. Let me share a story. David was a man who had everything most of us dream of: a successful career, a big home, people respected him. Outwardly, he looked like he was thriving, but inside, he was restless. Every achievement brought joy, but only for a while. Every possession felt satisfying until he wanted the next one. And every disappointment, no matter how small, threw him into anger or worry. One day, In a moment of quiet honesty, David admitted to himself, "I have all I thought I wanted, but I am not free." This was his turning point. The Buddha described the roots of suffering as three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. We crave what we don't have. We resist what we dislike. And we stay blind to the truth of how things really are. This cycle traps us, no matter how successful, admired, or comfortable we might be. But there is another way. The final destination of the Buddha's path is not some faraway heaven. It is nirvana freedom here and now. Not a place we go, but a state of being we cultivate. Imagine a mind that is no longer ruled by craving, that is not set on fire by anger, that is no longer clouded by ignorance. What remains is clarity, stillness, a luminous peace that no one can take away. That is what the Buddha called liberation. Let's be honest, this is not easy. Our whole lives, we've been trained to chase after things outside ourselves: the next promotion, the next relationship, the next comfort. But notice this: even when we get them, we worry about losing them. And when we lose them, we suffer even more. Freedom means learning a different way. It means loosening the grip. It means understanding that real peace does not depend on what we own or how others see us. It depends on the state of our own mind. When David started practicing mindfulness, he discovered something remarkable. Sitting quietly, breathing deeply, he watched his thoughts rise and fall. Desires came. Frustrations came. And yet, none of them lasted. He began to see, I am not my craving. I am not my anger. These are visitors. They come and go. I don't have to follow them. Little by little, the grip of suffering loosened. Not because life became perfect, but because he learned to see life as an island. The Buddha once said, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, man cannot live without a spiritual life." This spiritual life is not about dogma or blind belief. It's about cultivating freedom. Freedom to love without clinging. Freedom to act without being enslaved by anger. Freedom to see clearly, even in the midst of chaos. This is nirvana, not an escape from life, but a way of living fully awake within it. So I want to ask you, what are you chasing today, thinking it will make you free? What craving, what anger, what illusion is still holding you back? Imagine, just for a moment, putting it down. Not losing anything, but gaining space, gaining clarity. What would it feel like to live without carrying that burden? That taste, that glimpse, is the doorway to real freedom. The most important thing in life is not wealth, not status, not even fleeting happiness. It is freedom. Because with freedom, happiness blooms naturally. With freedom, love becomes unconditional. With freedom, even the storms of life cannot shake your peace. This is what the Buddha offered us, not promises for another world, but liberation here, in this very breath, in this very moment. And once you taste it, even just once, you'll understand this is the treasure that cannot be lost. So, let me leave you with this. Success is temporary. Pleasure is temporary. Even pain is temporary. But freedom, that is eternal. And it begins the moment you decide to let go. Summary of key points and reflections. So, let's pause for a moment and take a gentle breath together. We began this journey with one simple but haunting truth. Life is short, and everything we hold on to is passing. Just like the morning dew disappears under the rising sun, nothing in this world lasts forever. And when we forget this, we suffer. We suffer because we believe the self we defend so fiercely is permanent. But the Buddha reminded us that this I we cling to is just an illusion. It's like a wave on the ocean, real in its movement, yet inseparable from the water itself. When we loosen our grip on this illusion, suddenly the fear of losing, the fear of change begins to dissolve. We also explored the power of letting go. At first, letting go feels like losing, but in truth, it's the opposite. It's freedom. Imagine carrying a heavy stone for years, believing it defines who you are. Then one day, you set it down. That lightness, that relief, that is the taste of liberation. And the Buddha didn't just leave us with philosophy. He gave us a path, the Noble Eightfold Path, a way of living that balances wisdom, ethics, and mindfulness. It's not about escaping life, but about walking through life with clarity, compassion, and peace. We also saw that wisdom without compassion becomes dry, and compassion without wisdom can lose direction. The two must move together, like wings of a bird, carrying us toward balance and harmony. And finally, we reach the heart of the teaching. The most important goal is not wealth, not fleeting happiness, not even recognition. It is freedom from suffering itself, the stillness and clarity of nirvana. Not a place far away, but a peace available here and now, in this very breath. So what is the lesson for us here today? It's this: don't let your short time on earth slip away in clinging and distraction. Each breath you take is a chance to awaken. Each moment is an invitation to love more deeply, to let go more gently, and to live more fully. Maybe you've seen this in someone you love, an aging parent, a friend going through hardship, or even in yourself during quiet nights when the noise of the world fades. These teachings are not abstract. They are woven into our everyday lives, waiting to be recognized. And so I'll leave you with a question. Who came to your mind as you listened to these words? If someone appeared in your heart, maybe this video is meant for them too. Share it with them. Let them know they're not alone on this path. And if these reflections touched you, even in the smallest way, I invite you to join this space of wisdom and compassion. You can subscribe to Buddha Wisdom, not just to hear more words, but to walk this journey together, step by step, moment by moment. Thank you, truly, for staying with me until the very end. Your time, your attention, your heart, it all matters. I don't take it for granted. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be free. And as this video closes, remember, the journey is not over. The next step awaits you in the breath you are about to take.